You're all guys. Hello.
Don't come up.
Hey guys, Alex here from Pigeon Plays with another BattleBit video. So today we're going to be looking at the AUG. Now the AUG is quite an interesting weapon in BattleBit because on paper it doesn't look that impressive. In fact, it actually looks quite bad. And as I started playing with it, I thought it was bad. I was really struggling for a while until I asked the chat, literally I asked the chat in the server, how do you make this gun work? And someone just replied to me and said, put a scope on it. And I don't normally like running scopes on assault rifles. It doesn't really sort of gel with my playstyle. I can see people just fine. I don't know why you'd need a scope. But I'm telling you, on the AUG, it really worked. And when I looked at the stats properly, I started to actually understand why. So let me break it down for you. So as per usual, we've gone onto True Game Data's website and we've picked out the AUG and some of its main sort of competitors in the same category. So we've got the M4, the SCAR, the AK-15 and the Groza, which they're all very popular weapons. And as you go down to look at the time to kill chart, so you've got the distance on the horizontal and the time to kill on the vertical. When you actually look, the AUG is the slowest. Up to about 140 meters, 130 meters, it's just the slowest. And it doesn't really ever get beyond that. So after a quick look, it doesn't really look like there's much of a reason to use the AUG, but time to kill isn't everything. So when you actually look at the other stats, it starts to piece together a little bit more. So a large reason why the AUG has got quite a slow time to kill is because its damage is actually pretty poor as well. So the red line here is the AUG, getting about 31 damage per body hit, versus say the SCAR, which has the same rate of fire at 500 rounds per minute, having damage of 42, which is why the SCAR has such a faster time to kill. However, something that you'll need to know is that in BattleBit, weapons aren't 100% accurate, and you may have noticed this as you're playing the game. So this is a way that the game uses to keep weapons effective within their category and within their role. So submachine guns will have the worst accuracy value, which will be a lower value on this table, and then assault rifles will be a bit more accurate so they can shoot at a further range and have less sort of bullet dispersion, as it were. And then as you progress further, you'll have the DMRs and then obviously the snipers being the most accurate and the most consistent at range, because that's where they're supposed to excel. So when you look at this and you compare the AUG to its other competitors, including the SCAR H, which was beating it out on time to kill with the same rate of fire, the SCAR H has an accuracy dispersion of about 75%, whereas the AUG has an accuracy dispersion of about 90%, which is more accurate. So 100% is perfect, and anything less than that is more inaccurate. Don't know if that made sense, but we're not going to edit it. We're just going to leave it as it is. Higher is better than lower. Because of that, so you've got to consider the fact that the AUG is the most accurate, it has a significantly higher bullet velocity, and it also has nicer recoil than all these other weapons. And those three sort of traits combined mean that you can throw on a 2x or a 3x scope on it and you can spray. So you can actually get accurate shots at more effective ranges, including on moving targets, because this bullet velocity is insane. That's in like sniper category, and so what that means is that if you kit this gun out in the right way, you can counter snipers just by spraying with this weapon. And in the gameplay in the background, you're going to see me doing that quite a few times, and I swear to God, it's very easy to do it. Especially because the aim punch is so bad in this game. If a sniper's aiming at you and you hit them once or twice, their character's going to jolt and they'll never hit you. So you can really flick between targets at range here and drop them so fast, because there's a difference between the theoretical time to kill, which is what you see on these charts, and the actual time to kill, which includes how easy the gun is to use and how effective it is at range and all of those things. So if you've been playing with the assault rifles and really struggling to sort of combat people at range, and maybe they're beaming you back and you don't quite understand why, give the AUG a go. Once you've unlocked a scope, find one you're most comfortable with, and just start blasting. Like, honestly, it's great fun, and it's not too bad up close either if you go for those headshots. So without further ado, let's go into the recommended builds and we'll go from there. Okay, so for the attachments, as I mentioned previously, I really like having a medium range scope on this weapon. So I think it's probably one of the only assault rifles where I'll actually recommend using a medium range scope. But that extra clarity and that low recoil make it so easy just to spray with this weapon. So I'd recommend at least giving it a go. The two standouts for me are the The M125, I thought I had a really nice reticle, and it doesn't zoom in too much, so it's very easy to spray, but it just gives that extra little bit of clarity. And if you're not too keen on that, the slip is pretty good as well, but for me it didn't quite have enough zoom. So I'd recommend you give the M125 scope a go. Go from there, see if you want more zoom or less, but for me that's the sweet spot. Following on from that, we've got the barrel, and this will sort of depend on how you handle recoil personally. So there's a decent argument for trying to use the long barrel because it increases the damage, the accuracy, and the velocity. So it's making the biggest weakness of this weapon, the damage, a little bit better, and it is helping with accuracy and velocity. However, I did find that vertical recoil jump just a little bit too much. It is still very good, and if you can get used to it, I would recommend doing that. But if you just want a more low impact barrel, which just makes the gun a little better but doesn't have any major drawbacks, I quite liked using the DGN 308. It doesn't impact the weapon's performance too much, it just shaves off the recoil ever so slightly. I did give the long suppressor a good go as well, and it was actually quite good fun. The AUG sounds awesome when you've got that suppressor, and if you're sort of picking people off at range, they are going to take that a little while longer to spot you, so that is quite good fun. But the long suppressor does come with similar drawbacks where you've got extra vertical recoil and you've also got a first shot bounce, which makes that vertical recoil feel even worse. Following on from that, we've got the underbarrel attachment. Now, a really strong first choice for this would be the stubby grip. It just helps with the recoil and the handling of the weapon. But once you start to progress with this weapon and start to unlock the other underbarrel attachments, the sort of end game, in my opinion, is the B25 URK. It's just like a slightly better version of the stubby grip, basically with slightly better recoil and sort of helps out with your reload time as well. And also having a horizontal grip just makes the gun look cooler, which, as we all know, is probably the most important thing. Now for the side rail, this is more personal preference again. I quite like having a laser sight, it makes me feel more comfortable in close quarters engagements. Having said that, the AUG's ADS time is very, very fast. And what that means is that if you can sort of get used to having a slightly more zoomed in optic in close quarters engagements, like the sort of 2x zoom that the M125 offers, you can quite easily get away with not having a laser sight and have slightly better handling. Personally for me, I quite like having a laser sight, but you really don't need it with an ADS speed that fast. And then finally, if you want to make the reload a little bit faster, you can always throw that quick draw on it. I wouldn't recommend any of the extended magazines because the rate of fire for the AUG is so slow that you're not going to mag dump very quickly anyway, so in my opinion it's really not worth the drawbacks for this. But that's it for the attachments for the AUG. Now when you're playing with this weapon, you're going to be wanting to stick to longer ranges where the other assault rifles are going to be a bit too bouncy and a little bit too inaccurate for you to really have the advantage. As I said previously, this weapon is brilliant for counter-sniping people at range because they really just don't expect it. Now when I say at range, I don't mean at 300 or 400 meters, but at the 150, 250 meter mark, the AUG is surprisingly good. And trust me, a sniper will not be expecting it when they sort of shoot a bullet over at you, and before they know it, you're absolutely lacing them and their buddies. Now this weapon is also brilliant for flanks and dealing with multiple opponents if you go for the headshots. The accuracy of this weapon is its greatest strength, so you really want to be making the most of it and start going for those headshots because the recoil and the accuracy actually allow you to consistently get headshots at range, and that's where the weapon's time to kill really gets shaved down. So that's it for the AUG. If you found this video helpful, please drop a like. If you didn't, drop a dislike. Subscribe for more weapon guides, and I'll see you guys in the next one.